Last year, actually, we concluded on the first session because I don't know for what reason you couldn't find enough people to debate and say the things that they were saying. So I want to register my appreciation to colleagues who have taken time to read the 163 paragraphs of this speech and given their evaluation and their assessment. There are many that have agreed with the proposals that are being made by the President and the call to action that he's giving to the nation on the things that needs to be achieved. Mr. Speaker, there are those that disagree as well. I agree, Mr. Speaker, with colleagues that are saying there are certain aspects that should have been mentioned and probably did not feature. But Mr. Speaker, you know, there were days we used to go to the State of the Nation address and you sit there for 3 hours. In fact, I remember the former president another time, he threw away half of his speech and said, these things are too much, I've said enough that I need to say. But when you are a leader that appreciates what you are saying, Mr. Speaker, you limit yourself to that which you feel is most fundamental at that particular time. And I feel strongly, Mr. Speaker, that the President took time to address the issues of the progress that his administration has made the last 3 years, and now setting the solid foundation for what we need to do in the years that are coming. Mr. Speaker, we must appreciate that part of the biggest deficiency that this country suffers is that we want to politicize everything. That we reduce our national conversations to be you must win or I must lose conversations, Mr. Speaker. We must rise and get to a point of having a vision that we agree to as a nation. And then we all aspire. And it will not matter who is president, who is senator, who is governor. We just know that these are the things that we are focusing on for the next 10, 15, or 20 years. Mr. Speaker, you know, many times when people speak about the things that have happened in this country, you would think that there was no country before 2022. Correct. There was a nation. There were challenges. If you speak about the education sector, for example, is it not true, Mr. Speaker, that in the last 3 years under this administration, what is the biggest challenge that many of the constituents, for example, the people that I represent in this house, ask us about? They tell you that we need enough teachers to teach our students, because the worst thing that can happen to a parent is to send your child to a public institution and there's no teacher to teach them. We were in a situation, Mr. Speaker, where in certain schools, you are finding that one teacher was teaching 3 or 4 subjects because there are not enough people. The progress that has been made of employing close to 80,000 teachers up to this point is significant progress and need to be noted. The second thing, Mr. Speaker, that we struggle about is infrastructure. I went through public education, and I know today when I visit, for example, Unity Primary School, where I went to school, Mr. Speaker, I feel troubled because the kids squeeze themselves in a tiny little room, close to 100 children, particularly in cities, a place like Nairobi here, Mr. Speaker, where many children go to public institutions, Mr. Speaker, don't have sufficient infrastructure. This government has put in place the sufficient resources first to build across the country 23,000 classrooms to take care of the transition that is happening from the former education 844 to CBE, competent-based education, Mr. Speaker, and the rest of the things that need to be done. Therefore, you can record, and that's what we have said. While it is good to say the things that are not up to par in all our sectors, we must never forget where we have come from and what has been done. You can say the same about the health sector. Speak to your governor, Governor Mutuma, and he will tell you, Mr. Speaker, that part of the bigger problem that many of our county hospitals used to face from the defunct NHIF is that when they offered services to citizens, many of our public hospitals would actually wait for a year or 2 before being paid. That is no longer the case. We have challenged, and I'm happy because we are all in this house, and I hope C.S. Duale meant what he said when he promised us that before the end of the mandatory 1 year, 3 months period that we have given them under the Section 43 of the Social Health Authority Act, he will bring a report to this house. And I mentioned to him and I said, I want to see that report detailed, name by name, the institutions that have been compensated in my own county. Because I want to go there and see Cheborgei Health Center. How much in compensation have they received over the last 1 year? Because that is the only way you're going to build a credible public health infrastructure, Mr. Speaker. One that is supported by payments from the national coverage that citizens are receiving. As we speak today, Mr. Speaker, you cannot argue with the fact that there are 28 million Kenyans that are registered under SHA. They register themselves, 50,000 of them each day. Do you know why they are registering? It's because they hear from their neighbor that when I was unwell, my bill was 600,000-700,000, SHA paid for me 200,000 or 300,000. And that means a lot to the ordinary folk in the village. Mr. Speaker, we must establish ways through which we will provide medicine in our health facilities. It is the biggest concern each time. It's the biggest concern that citizens raise, for example, with me as a representative each time when I speak in public engagements and ask them to register on SHA, because they tell me, then tell the governors to put medicine in the hospitals, because it's not sufficient just to walk there. Mr. Speaker, there have been arguments that have been made also about the lack of address to national values and principles of governance. My colleague, Senator Sifuna, the last paragraph of that article that you read speaks about sustainable development, development that transitions from one generation to the other. I believe that is what the president is speaking to in the last 45 paragraphs of his speech, the things that we must do as a republic. And he asked the questions in this speech, Mr. Speaker, that, for example, when we did privatization of Telcom, when we did privatization of Kenjet, when we did privatization of Safaricom, where did those funds go? We consumed it all in salaries. That's why we are saying we must be a people that inflect and reflect and learn from the mistakes of the past. That's why we are proposing this time and saying that if we carry out any privatization like what is being done with pipeline and all the rest that are following, we must put it in a national sovereign wealth fund like other countries do, funds that will only be invested in making our country better. I believe that is part of sharing the burden from one generation to the other, and so many other things that can be done. What I want to challenge in conclusion, Mr. Speaker, because I know my time is up and I don't want to speak a lot because my colleague have said very, very important things, is as a house, what I expect us to do come 2026, Mr. Speaker, is in so many of these solid programs that are being proposed, where I feel we have let the people of Kenya down is on our oversight as an institution of governance in this country, Mr. Speaker. There are many programs, Mr. Speaker, that have been done and they are running out within the circles of public, Mr. Speaker, yet there are questions that citizens continue to raise, which they expect that us as their representatives, we will speak about them to fine-tune, from the affordable housing program to social health to this one of the sovereign wealth. Senator Mungatana, we must be the voice that continue to check and ensure the dream that we had when we passed those laws is implemented to the letter. My dear colleagues, there is what the executive can do. There is what also we must do as a legislature. And it is not in our place. We must compete. For example, I have challenged and I have told the House that as we receive the reports of, for example, the markets and the houses that are being built across the country, we must see the national spread. You must see significant markets of 700, 800, 900 million shillings being built in Tana River the same way they are being built in other parts of the country. That is our duty. And we must ensure that as the president and the executive do their part, we also do our part, Mr. Speaker. That is what we are called upon to. Mr. Speaker, I beg to reply and do ask my colleagues to take note of the fact that besides the speech of the State of the Nation, Mr. Speaker, that the president gave, there are other reports that are also tabled alongside, including the report on the state of security, the report on the progress made in fulfilling international obligations. Those are very important, Mr. Speaker, because, for example, why I'm speaking, Speaker, allow me just 30 seconds to say this, is because, for example, I know Kenya signs, what are they called? The name disappears from my mind right now. The economic agreements, CEPA, you know, comprehensive economic partnership agreements with other countries, including countries like those in the Middle East, Mr. Speaker. It is the time has come for us as members of this House to look into the details of those agreements and see what the host countries give as their commitment, Mr. Speaker, in ensuring that the fundamental rights of the citizens from this country that work in those countries are guaranteed, Mr. Speaker. It is not fair for many of our young people that we see working particularly in the Middle East, Mr. Speaker, and occasionally we keep seeing videos of them being harassed. Some of them are killed, Mr. Speaker, yet it is without consequence. There must be a consequence to the host country, Mr. Speaker, because all those agreements are signed and approved and ratified by this House. Therefore, it is our duty to ensure that we follow through, to ensure that Kenyans who work in those countries, Mr. Speaker, their rights are guaranteed. With those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I beg to reply. Finally, Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order number 66.3, I request for the Department of the putting of a question until a later